Yeo is surprised director Jing is showing such deference to Jiang, which interests Wang too, as he gets curious about their relationship. Director Jin asks Jiang if Wu Tian has been bothering him in any way because he can teach the lad a lesson, but Jiang knows Wu Tian is in for the shock of his life and wants things to unfold on their own, so he dismisses the claims as a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Wu Tian is getting irritated waiting inside the hotel for Director Jin, as it has been quite some time. However, as soon as Director Jin enters, Wu Tian gets up from his seat, welcoming him, but stops midway as blood runs down his face when he spots Jiang with the director. Jiang was waiting to see his reaction, and as he expected, Wu Tian went into full-on jittery mode. This time, Director Jin asks Wu Tian directly if he had a fight with Jiang, and Wu Tian couldn't say anything except that it was a misunderstanding. Still, Jiang is not done with his pettiness, and adds that Wu Tian is particularly interested in his friend Yao, and nonchalantly claims that he is not suited to her. Now visibly shaking, Wu Tian curses Jiang in his mind when Wang warns him that going against Jiang is equivalent to challenging his brother Zhao as they are friends. Wu Tian is shocked beyond comprehension to learn Jiang and Zhao are friends. He immediately gets down on his knees, and with every sorry, Wang slaps him. Just then, Wu Zhang enters and intervenes, which creates tension between him and Director Jin. To add fuel to the fire, Wang taunts Wu Tian for breaking the rules of the underground and acting like a thug. Wu Zhang is surprised and asks Wang if his brother, Wu Tian, offended him. But Wang asserts that the kid didn't offend him, but his brother, Jiang. Jiang enjoys being advocated for, as he can now eat his meal peacefully. Wu Zhang tries to placate the situation and offers compensation for Wu Tian's doing. But when Wang mentions the incident about Zhang and his 200 men being beaten up single-handedly by a monster of a person, and says that the legend is Jiang, Wu Zhang picks a champagne bottle and smashes on Wu Tian's head and chides him for messing with a person who can eliminate him in a snap. Ironically, he starts beating his brother, Black and Blue, but Jiang asks him to stop. Wang asks sternly if this will happen again, and Wu Tian takes his brother's responsibility and says if he ever shows his face to Yao, they'll cut him into pieces and feed him to the dogs. Wu Tian then drags his barely conscious brother to clean him up and takes his leave. Jiang is impressed by Wang's method of dealing with issues without any dire consequences and pours him a drink to appreciate how well he handled the situation. The men drink to their content, and by the end of the evening, Director Jin is very intoxicated and makes a faux pas at Wang, who appears to be extremely attractive to him in his state. After the two leave, Yu cannot subdue her curiosity and asks Jiang who he really is. Jiang replies he's not that big of a deal, but a diabolical person. Jiang asks Yeo for an update on how fast the work on the film he's making can start. Yeo is almost done with hiring actors, and they can start shooting by next week, but they are facing funding issues. They require $30 million, and the company's financial condition is not assuring at the moment. Jiang suddenly takes a cool stance and declares that he can easily supply $25 million. Just as Yu hears about money, her inner seductress awakens, and she throws her arms around Jiang and proposes if he wants to support her financially. She is ready to become his mistress. She puts his finger in her mouth and explains everything she is willing to do for him, but Jiang pulls out his finger, refraining from going any further. He questions her about her intentions, unwilling to give in to her shenanigans. Yao is persistent, and while imagining intimate moments with Jiang, she blushes and says he can't do such things to her in the company. She finally changes her expression into a sultry one and asks how he likes the offer. That look is enough to make him hard, no matter how much he tries to calm himself down. He is irritated that his body is not listening to his mind, and after a brief quiet moment, he asks Yeo to stop with the nonsense and heads home. Seeing her chance slip away, she tries one more time, but when Jiang doesn't budge, she calls after him to at least give her a ride home. The next day at school, Lin meets Jiang in the staff room to return his coat. She also brings him the lunch she has prepared for him, and seeing him enjoy her cooking, she is happy and surprised how Jiang has suddenly changed into someone so reliable. Jiang finds her staring at him and asks if she wants something from him. Lin struggles to find words and then says there is a birthday party and everybody is bringing their partners. She was wondering if Jiang would be interested in going with her, but then she struggles to explain that she didn't mean as a couple and gets flustered. Jiang doesn't think much of it and agrees to go with her. Later he meets Lin and her friends, who start interrogating him about his relationship with Lin. Lin tries to stop her friend from saying such things. Just then, the birthday girl Liu Lai, arrives and apologizes for being late. Once all the friends arrive, Liu announces they will be going to Marriott and that everything is arranged by her boyfriend. The girls can't believe their luck and squeal in joy upon arrival. Jang stays quiet and doesn't say much when the friends sing praises of Liu's boyfriend and how filthy rich he is. Once in a private room, they enjoy fancy meals while Jang looks bored. Just then, Liu's boyfriend, Zhu Yu, greets the ladies. But as soon as he sees Jang, he stops and stares at him, and so does Jang, both realizing dealing with each other won't be easy. Zhu Yu greets Liu and apologizes for being late, but his attention soon shifts to Lin, who is sitting alone. Liu introduces Lin as their school's flower and says she doesn't have a boyfriend yet. Zhou finds it hard to believe and says he has brought some of his influential friends from the industry. He encourages the girls to build a network with them as his friends can provide them with opportunities for high-paying jobs after graduation. As they start sitting, every guy tries to sit with Lin, while Jiang doesn't like Zhu's audacity and curses him. Zhao then raises a toast for Liu, and another guy asks Lin to drink with them. Lin confesses she hasn't had alcohol before, but when Liu also insists, Lin has no choice but to have some. After finishing her glass of red wine, she is already drunk and feels she can't drink anymore, but one guy remains persistent. Jiang interferes and asks the man to back off, but as he's about to give him a piece of his mind, Lin's best friend, Xu Yuan, shuts him up and says he has no say in this as he hasn't had a single drink. She then challenges to drink on behalf of Lin, and Jiang is left to fret about his thunder being stolen by her. Suddenly, Liu remarks on Jiang's profession as a librarian at their school and suggests he takes advantage of the influential people in her party. The man who insisted Lin drink says he can offer Jiang a job in his foreign trade company and will pay him $8,000 a month. Jiang passes on the offer and says he likes his job. Liu doesn't want the job conversation to bore the party down, so she insists Jiang drink with them. But Jiang outrightly refuses, to which Zhou rubs his success story on Jiang's face, swearing by his alcohol tolerance. Jiang has had enough of their narcissism and says that he has a high alcohol tolerance. It is just that he doesn't drink with just anybody. Zhou's expressions change, and with his temper rising, he asks Jiang if he's saying that he is not worth Jiang's time. Jiang's aura changes to a murderous one, and he reiterates that he drinks only with people he deems worthy, and nobody can force him to drink, even if it is someone's birthday. The atmosphere turns tense, and the other guy shouts at Jiang for using such a tone. But before he can say anything else, Wu Zhang enters and asks how he is alive after talking like that to Jiang. The man calms down and starts showing sycophancy, but Wu Zhang refuses to recognize him. He then turns to Jiang and says he is here with some buddies, and when he heard Jiang is there too, he dropped by to say hi. He asks if the men offended Jiang. Jiang says the guys were forcing his cousin to drink with wrong intentions, and when he intervened, the guys started getting fussy and forcing him to drink instead. With bloodthirst in his eyes, Wu Zhang offers to take care of the situation and starts counting the men to beat them to a pulp. The girls are scared to think about what is happening, while Liu can't fathom a librarian with connections with the underworld. Wu Zhang shows no mercy and says he's going to stick 3 bottles of vodka down their throat, and whoever can't finish it will be thrown in the river along with their entire families. Jiang scoffs as he finds it funny that a tough guy like Wu Zhang is Wu Tin's brother, who is the polar opposite. Jiang thanks Wu Zhang for taking care of these unruly men for him and offers to drink with him. Wu Zhang accepts and gets the table clean for them. He calls out to Lin and says he has something to discuss with Wu Zhang and asks her and the others to go to the next private room. After a couple of drinks, they are ready to call it a night. Wu Zhang tells Jiang that he has arranged a car for Lin and others to drop them back at school, and they say their goodbyes. The next day, Jiang gets surrounded by women as soon as he reaches school. They bombard him with chocolates and lunchboxes and surround him, unwilling to let him go. Lin is not happy with women fawning over him and tells him that Xu Yuan told all the girls how dashing Jiang is, which made the girls want to see him and know him. Jiang literally bleeds from every hole after the assault to his dignity by the insane women throwing themselves on him. He gets saved by a phone call from the company, who wants him to oversee the shooting and the scene at the studio. With a smirk, he rushes out, thanking his stars for saving him from those thirsty women. Jiang reaches the station after a tiring bus journey and searches for a placard with his name. It doesn't take much time for him to find it, as the man holding it shakes it vigorously and introduces himself as Tu An, a crew member from Gusu's studio. Jang feels awkward as Fu-in blabbers about being a fan of his work. He is excited to tell Jang about the crew and wants Jang to share the same enthusiasm. But Jang couldn't care less and wonders if Fu bit his head when he was born. Fu tells him there are two big superstars. One of them is a failed drama series actor, and the other is a veteran actor who has been away from the industry for a long time. Just as they reach the studio, Jang is amazed to see Jaffa in action. Director Chang Do-eun finalizes the scene after he's happy with it and greets Jang as Fu introduces him. Chen compliments his work and then calls Jaffa to talk to Jang. Jaffa surprises Jang by thanking him for providing him with another chance. Jang praises his acting and says he bought out the character. He feels Jaffa is humble for an upcoming actor and takes notice of him. After the successful completion of the direction of the movie, Chang invites everybody on the crew for drinks. The merrymaking continues till late at night, and Chang loses all decency. He starts searching a crew member's skirt for more beer. Jang can take just enough, and after Jaffa thanks him again, he leaves for the night. While walking alone, Jang finds the street empty and decides to use his internal force to extract the alcohol from his body. Just as he does so, and all the alcohol comes out in the form of a liquid energy ball, he hears a murmur from the far end of the street. Jang panics, thinking it might be a ghost, but musters up the courage to check out the source of the noise. He walks toward the sound and finds a woman curled up on a bench, sobbing. Jang decides to scare her and makes a scary face as he approaches her. She lets out a yelp, and Jang laughs after having his revenge for scaring him. He then sits beside her and asks why she's crying. In between sobs, she tells him that everybody in the movie crew bullies her. Jang argues that she is so cute that even he feels like teasing her. She can't believe he just called her cute and looks at him quizzically. Jang elaborates that he knows many beautiful girls, but none can be compared to her. However, Jang reminds her that being cute is not enough, so she needs to sell her talent or body to sustain herself in the industry. The girl starts crying out loud, saying she doesn't want others to touch her. She then introduces herself as Yi Qingxing, a student of the Imperial College of Film and Television. She had come out with her classmate, as the former director invited them for food and drinks, but his intentions were not good, so she ran from the hotel while her classmate was still partying with the director. John questions her why she's tolerating such behavior, and he replies she is the daughter of an actress and her dream is to become a big star like her mother. She cries as she has left her documents and wallet in the hotel, but she is not willing to go back, so Jiang decides to help her and offers her a role in his movie. His face lights up as she's finally met a man who is not a bully. But she soon loses consciousness, and Jiang rushes to catch her before she hits the ground. He is worried something might have happened, but when her stomach growls, he gives out a sigh of relief and understands he fainted because of hunger. He takes her to a restaurant, and she eats to her heart's content, and once she's done, she asks him to come with her to her hotel. Jiang almost spits out his drink and pleads with her never to say it out loud in public. As they are leaving, two hooligans pass obscene comments on them, but Jiang will not take such crap from anybody. He warns them to run for their lives and gives them 3 seconds as he starts the countdown. When the thugs don't budge, Jiang finishes him with punches, making a bloody scene. The people around stand in terror, wondering if they should call the police as it looks serious. He spots the other standing at a distance, terrified, and as if he teleported, he appears in front of him and kicks him with brute force. Upon realizing he used too much power, he hopes he didn't eliminate the guy, but he miraculously survives. Once his job is done, he smacks Yi's behind and asks her to accompany him. Yi holds Jiang's jacket and says he is the first person who stood by her other than her sister. She suddenly says she wants to learn Kung Fu and asks him if he can teach her, but he refuses, saying it is hard to teach what he does to someone. He remembers something and meets the restaurant owner to apologize for the damages and sends in more than necessary. As they make their way out, he gets a call from her classmate, who yells at her, complaining that the director is furious and is trying to block her off in the entertainment circle. She warns her to return and apologize or she can say goodbye to the role she wants. Jiang gets irritated by the yapping from the other side of the phone, so he borrows her phone, gives them an address, and challenges the director to meet him as he wants to see who has the balls to blacklist in the entertainment industry. Yi and Jiang go to meet the director and see the director shamelessly placing his hands over Yi's friend in places he shouldn't be reaching. Yi's friend doesn't seem to mind and chides Yi for running away. She asks Yi to stay and accompany the director to show her appreciation. The director grabs her tight and shifts his attention to Yi. He asks her to sit beside him, and he will give her the role. Jang calls the director a dipshit, which enrages him, and he grabs Jang by his collar. Jang grips him by his hand and pins him on the table. With the other hand, he grabs a bottle and smashes it on the director's head, making him bleed profusely. The director whimpers in pain while the woman with him screams murder. The director still has the audacity to threaten Jang, so Jang grabs him by his neck and lifts him. He then introduces himself and warns him not to mess with his crew and Sister Yi, as he acknowledged her as his sister just moments ago. Jang's generosity touches Yi, and her eyes well up. After mopping the floor with him, Jang threatens the director not to even think about seeking revenge, or he'll make him suffer. Yi's friend cries, shaking with fear and asking the director to get medical attention, or he'll succumb to excessive blood loss. Jang then takes Yi with him, and they leave the hotel. However, the director is already planning revenge as he coughs up blood. Once outside, Jang proposes to go to Yi's hotel, making her blush hard. They soon reach her room, and he makes Jang wear her sleeping eye mask to prevent him from peeking while she changes her clothes. He concentrates on his cup of noodles and wonders how he ended up in the same room as this girl. The entire hotel is booked, and he is forced to share it with Yi with no rooms left. He finishes his noodles, lies down when Yi says she is done, and asks if he wants to shower. Jang thinks it is safe to open his eye mask, but when he does, Yi is still in her undergarments, and she lets out a scream that can be heard till next door. She starts throwing things at him till he wears the mask again. She switches off the light so he can't see a thing, and in no time, Jang starts snoring. Thinking he's fallen asleep, Yi grabs a bottle to drink some water and says out loud how lucky she feels to have met him, because he is the only person to have stood by her and fought for her other than her sister. She also confesses that Jang looked handsome while he was fighting, and suddenly realizing what she just said, she thanks her stars that Jang is sleeping or she might have to dig a hole to hide. Feeling good after speaking her heart out, she climbs into her bed and sleeps, unbeknownst to her that Jang heard everything she just said. The next morning, Yi prepares breakfast for Jang. After getting ready, they visit the studio only to find out that the two actors and actresses in his movie are hospitalized after they met with an accident. Though the injuries are not severe, their absence will drastically affect the shooting schedule, and even director Chang is furious. Jang thanks for a while, then turns to Yi and says it is her lucky day. He wants her to play the lead role and takes her to introduce her to Chang. Chang approves of her, instantly smitten by her beauty, and offers the male lead to Jang. Jang isn't sure and says he has no experience in acting. Chang persuades him and pulls out an Uno card when he says he'll tell Liao that Jang has a new girlfriend, and she'll then deal with him personally. A chill runs down Jang's spine even as he thinks about it and agrees to play the part. 3 days later, Jang is fighting someone when his brother comes, and Jang attacks him, but his brother effortlessly defends himself and chides him for that sneak attack, but Jang laughs and asks how it was. Suddenly Chang yells, "Cut!" and they finalize the scene. Veteran actor Hu compliments Jang on his acting skills, and Jang shows his appreciation by giving all the credit to him. Chang is also happy with Jang and tells him how much he loves his crew. Just then, one of the crew members gets kicked, and some shady-looking people bark for the director to come out. Chang asks if this is about management fees and tells them he has already paid them. One of the thugs says they won't bother him, but they are looking for Jang Bai as he has offended their friend. Hu warns Jang not to mess with these troublemakers and says Chang knows how to deal with the problem. Just then, Chi Jian, who has the management fees, arrives with his men. He asks Chang what the matter is and Chang tells them the men are threatening one of his actors. Chi takes responsibility and confronts the men for creating a scene. One of the guys tells Chi that Jang thrashed his friend and director, and they have come on his behalf to take revenge. Hu is astonished when he hears they are Huang's men, and warns Jang that Huang is an influential man with hundreds of millions of dollars, who hires badmen to do his dirty work, and has support from the Taindu underground triad gang. But Jang remains unfazed and says he has a friend who works at a high post with the local government. He assures everyone everything will be fine. When she hears Huang's name, he withdraws his men and says he'll return the management fee as he can't go against a man like Huang. But he warns the men that they will not meddle with other crew members. The man, Wang Kuang, gives his word and says they just want Jang, and adds that they also need the girl named Yi, as she is the reason why this mess started in the first place. Hu and others step up and offer to help Jang. After all, he is one of them, and even Yi offers to call her sister. But Jang says it wouldn't be necessary as he knows a person who is very powerful in Tiandu. Zhang calls Song Yi and asks him to send someone to deal with the issue. Song Yi has a perfect person as he is also a big fan of Zhang and assures he'll be there soon. It has already been half an hour, and Zhang is surrounded by dozens of men waiting to charge at him. Just then, Wang Sani appears in person, and everybody thinks this is it for Zhang. It is too late to save him now. Wang Sani stands in front of Zhang, and after confirming his identity, bows and stutters as he introduces himself. The men stand there agape, thinking what on earth is going on. Zhang feels embarrassed and asks what is going on. Wang explains that he got a call from Song Yi, so he quickly rushed to the scene. The director, Yan Xing, had told Wang someone had broken his skull and had hired him to teach Zhang a lesson. But Wang calls it a misunderstanding and apologizes to Zhang, which Zhang readily accepts, and everybody is left flabbergasted by such a turn of events. Yi immediately rushes to Zhang's side, unable to stop her tears as she thought she would lose Zhang. Zhang wipes her tears and, with a smile, says he will always be there to protect her. No matter what the situation is, she won't be bullied again. Wang apologizes for interrupting their moment and asks if they want to have lunch together. Zhang agrees and invites Cheng Hu and Zhou Fa to join them while Wang arranges a place. However, the actors and director feel they can't sit with a hotshot like Zhang. But Zhang assures them it is not a big deal, and then turns to Wang, ordering him to make sure no one bothers his crew for paying management or protection fees as long as they are filming in Gusu. In the end, it is only Zhang and Wang having lunch together. Wang offers to take him to his clubhouse, and Zhang agrees. Unbeknownst to him, Wang has cabaret girls arranged to entertain them. But Zhang is not impressed and questions Wang if he thinks Zhang is like any ordinary young master or corrupt official who just gets drunk and laid. Just then, he hears a girl call out Chu Chu, and Zhang suddenly remembers she used to be his girlfriend on Earth, and they were together for more than 4 years. But they broke up because Zhang never stood by his promise to marry her. He would always say he'll marry her when he has earned a lot, but no amount of money was sufficient for Zhang, so Chu Chu suggested they go their separate ways as she was tired of waiting for him and believing in a promise that would never be fulfilled. Zhang is lost in his thoughts about Chu Chu when Huang notices him staring at a girl and asks her to come, calling her Wu Xingxin. He asks her to entertain Zhang and soon leaves them alone. Zhang and Wu start talking, and she tells him she is still studying. Her mother was sick with uremia and needed money for her medical expenses, so Wang helped them monetarily and even sent her to the hospital. She didn't want to owe Wang, so to compensate for all the expenditure, she works there and even goes to school. Zhang is still perplexed that she works in a place like this and asks her to concentrate on her studies. They'll lend her money, and she can forget about the arrangement Wang has made for her. He sends her away and calls for Huang. He confronts him for bringing an underage girl to his club and warns him that it shouldn't happen again. Wang apologizes and gives his word that it won't happen again. Zhang feels Wang is hiding something and asks if he needs help. Wang gives in and says he has encountered serious trouble. Wang tells Zhang that 1/10 of his product went missing in the northern port city, and he can't do anything about it because of his company's reputation and constantly being in the public eye. Because he couldn't do anything, his product worth $1 billion was caught by customs. If the goods aren't returned, he fears he might die. Officially, they can't touch those guys in the north, but Zhao Wuji can, and if he demands it, the goods will be released. He asks Zhang to use his connections to approach Zhao Wuji, the Tiandu underground overlord. He offers Zhang half of the goods as compensation. Zhang agrees and calls Wang and explains the situation. But Wang tells him there will be some complications with getting the goods released, and that complication is Wu Tangxin, the vanguard of a Bay city in the north. He is one of the most illustrious figures in China, a successful businessman with influence spread throughout the area to the Tiandu River and the imperial capital. There is a rumor that a powerful guy is working under Wu Tangxin, and there is no other information available about the guy. Zhang gets excited and plans to go to Northport City himself. He asks Wang to handle the official side and make sure the goods don't disappear. Rest, he'll take care of the situation. Wang is grateful to Zhang for helping him out and pledges his allegiance to Zhang. At night, Zhang is lying on his bed, thinking what a pain Huang is when someone enters his room. It is Wu Xingxin who undresses before climbing into bed with Zhang. Zhang suddenly wakes up and pins Wu on the bed, asking her what she's doing there even after he asked her to concentrate on her studies. He decides to play with her a little and, with a smirk, says she'd be in trouble if he fails to hold it back. But to his surprise, Wu says she doesn't mind, so Jang takes a soft approach and asks her to come to him when in trouble. He then lies beside her, assuring her he'll cover her mother's hospital expenses. They soon doze off, and in the morning, Jang finds himself alone in bed with a note from Wu that reads she has an exam the next day, so he can call her after the test. With that, she mentioned her number. Jang lets out a chuckle before getting ready to sail the sea, and as he does, he has an uneasy feeling. But he takes pleasure in the thrill he feels as he realizes he might lose his life if he is not careful enough. Jang reaches the Northport city and meets Wang's informant, Sun Gai, at a luncheon. He tells Zhang that Wang has handled the customs and Zhang can arrange for someone to pick up the goods. He asks which route he will choose, but it doesn't make any difference for Zhang. Sun warns him that he might not be able to move the item out, but Zhang is keen to meet Wu Tangson and asks Sun to arrange a meeting with him. Sun fixes a meeting of the two and informs Zhang that Wu Tangson has invited him to eat with him. Zhang sends him off, thanking him for getting the work done. He then enters the private eating area and meets Wu Tangson, who is surprised to see such a young man standing before him. They share a little repartee before Wu Tangson's men hold Zhang at gunpoint, just because Wu Tangson has heard stories about Zhang and wants to see for himself if any of them are true. But Wu Tangson asks his men to keep the gun away, and an unperturbed Zhang asks for the product he withheld at the port. Wu Tangson boasts that he can release it by just lifting a finger, but he questions Zhang why he should give it to him. Zhang takes a serious stance and replies that Wu Tangson will not leave the Marina Hotel if he doesn't do as asked. Wu Tangson chuckles and claps, and soon his men enter the room from all directions and surround Zhang. Zhang lights a cigarette as Wu Tangson irritates him. Still, he flicks a cigarette at Wu Tangson, who lights it and acknowledges Zhang's courage. He confesses that he would have given back the item in normal circumstances, but he doesn't like Wang and asks Zhang to bring Wang here, and he will let Zhang go easily. And as long as Wang is willing to do as he says, he will give him back his goods. Wu Tangson offers Zhang to work for him, but Zhang has already said what he needs. He reiterates that he needs the goods or he'll smash Wu Tangson's face to a pulp. Wu Tangson thinks it is Zhang's arrogance speaking because, at that moment, 40 armed men are surrounding Zhang, and he has no way out. Zhang insists that the men don't move or else he'll show them no mercy. Wu Tangson laughs at Zhang's proclamation and swears that if he can reach him in the room after tackling his men, he'll recognize him, and as long as he is alive, Wu Tangson will not mess with or reach out to him. Wu Tangson is still mid-sentence when Zhang is already above his head. In no time, he beats half of the men senseless, but he gets caught by a 7-foot giant who grabs Zhang's head and wouldn't let go. But that doesn't last long, and Zhang twists the giant's arms, breaking them. Wu Tangson sees a hungry ghost in Zhang and predicts he can turn into a demon in the future. The men start shooting at Zhang, but nothing can stop his thirst for blood, and soon a bloody roulette takes place where the only shooter is Zhang. With most men eliminated, Wu Tangson calls the manager of his men and asks him to send his men to the ground floor and not to come in the room, and describes the situation as being handled. After Zhang is done eliminating all 40 armed men, he asks Wu Tangson for the goods, but Wu Tangson laughs and snaps his fingers. Just then, Zhang has dozens of lasers pointed at him. He realizes Wu Tangson has used snipers to target him and curses him. Zhang warns him that he can eliminate him even before anybody can shoot him. But Wu Tangson just laughs and, in a matter-of-fact tone, says they both will take their last breaths together as the two stand with guns pointing at each other. The two aim at each other and soon start shooting at each other mercilessly. Zhang aims at Wu Tangson and shoots him point blank, and as Wu Tangson falls, he manages to say "good shot" before he passes away. But just as Zhang starts laughing hysterically, he gets shot by the snipers. The two men are still standing with guns, and this scenario runs through Zhang's head. He knows he has no chance of survival if he finishes off Wu Tangson. Zhang is in a dilemma when Wu Tangson puts his gun down and says he surrenders because he doesn't have the heart to go through with it. He adds that Zhang wins the game. Zhang sneers at that remark and says that Wu Tangson values his life more than Zhang's, which is why he is ending their little game. Wu Tangson doesn't mind Zhang saying it like this because it is true, and he asks his men to compensate the families of the deceased while sending the injured to be treated. He asks the room to be cleared as he wants to discuss something with Zhang over drinks. That night, after getting really drunk, Zhang walks back to his hotel. As he's walking in the street, he notices a drunk girl being harassed by two men. Jiang grabs one of the men by his head and tosses him in the air. After what he saw, the other man doesn't dare to fight with him and apologizes before leaving the girl alone. The girl is too wasted, so Jiang brings her to his hotel. After showering, she asks Jiang if he would like to join her for a few drinks. Jiang can barely think straight because of the splitting headache, and now she is asking him to drink with her. What is wrong with this woman, he wonders. It is her way of thanking him for saving her. As she hands him a can of beer, she tells him her story. She was in elementary school when she met her now husband. She doesn't even know why she married him, probably because he got wounded on his duty as a policeman when they were dating, and she took pity on him. Meanwhile, Jiang is trying hard not to throw up because he's had too many drinks. The woman continues her story and says that her relationship has gotten threadbare with her husband, but she is willing to work on that. Someone told her having a baby might help them restore their relationship, so she removes her towel and announces she is going to make a baby with Jiang. Just as Jiang sees her naked, he can't hold it in any longer and barfs all over the floor. Jiang holds a suitcase full of money as he gets surrounded by armed men demanding the money from him. But he gives them the finger and claims the money to be his as he won it in gambling, playing fair and square. He is not ready to part with it when a speeding truck comes and Jiang gets hit. The men demanding money look confused as it is their truck, but they didn't call it in front of the casino. Just then, an unknown entity gets out of the truck and laughs, seeing Jiang lying in a pool of blood and his life slowly fading away. Jiang wakes up with a jerk, and the unknown entity's words wishing him a good trip ring in Jiang's ears. It takes a minute for Jiang to think straight, and he realizes he is in his bed naked. He finds a paper strip on the table with a message written on it, accompanied by a bundle of notes. In the letter, the woman thanks Jiang for what he did last night and says if she has his kid, she will take care of him and will not bother Jiang. She left $10,000 and bids him farewell. Jiang is irritated about being treated like this and wonders if he really slept with her. Suddenly his phone rings and Wang thanks him profusely because he got back his goods and asks for a month to prepare his share of money as promised. Jiang gets dressed and prepares to leave as his work is done. Somewhere a man asks to meet Mr. Shi. She asks his men to let the man come in. The man starts talking about Wu Tangxin, but she stops in mid-sentence and agrees Zhao Wuji has begun to get on his nerves. He is thinking of assassinating Zhao Wuji himself as things are not going well for his plans. Jiang is back in his city and is meeting with Song Yi, who is running late. While waiting, he gets a text from Wu Xingxin saying she is done with her exams. Song Yi apologizes for being late and claims it takes time to dress stylishly and do the hair. Jiang ignores his fancy excuses and asks him to take him to an address. Song Yi recognizes the address of a school and asks Jiang if he is on a date or something. Jiang doesn't shy away and says yes, making Song Yi cringe. He is even repelled by the pink-colored t-shirt Jiang is wearing and reminds him to dress appropriately. After all, he is a multi-billionaire Chinese underground boss. Jiang reminds him he is a librarian and asks Song Yi not to treat him like someone from the mafia. Song Yi is not having any of Jiang's excuses, and he urges Jiang to get in the car as he's planning to take him for a makeover and a change of clothes. At the school, Wu Xingxin meets her friend, who asks her where she has been all these days. She tells him the two guys in their class got into an argument because of Wu Xingxin, but Wu Xingxin says she has nothing to do with it. As they're walking, they meet Wang Yang, which makes Wu Xingxin embarrassed. Wang Yang claims to settle the score with the other kid named Gu Kai, and that guy will never bother her again, but Wu Xingxin is not interested and says she has nothing to do with the fight. She makes it clear to Wang Yang that he can't force her to like him. Hearing this vexes Wang Yang, and he yells at her that whatever he does is for her. And today he has called his elder brother to settle the matter once and for all with Gu Kai. Soon Wang Yang arrives, and in an almost threatening tone, says to Wu Xingxin that she can't leave now and asks how she is willing to compensate his brother. They're in the middle of the conversation when Gu Kai arrives and asks Wu Xingxin if she wants to have lunch together. Wang Yang takes offense and threatens to eliminate him from the picture altogether. Don't forget to press the like button if you like the recap and leave a comment if you want part 3 of the exciting journey of Jiang Bai. Subscribe for more such content and see you guys in the next video.